Hi, my name is Drew Pomeroy, and welcome to this beginner-friendly series on learning RStudio and Shiny Apps.io for athlete monitoring. In this series, we'll be exploring how to create a dynamic and user-friendly web application to monitor athletic performance, specifically focusing on baseball players. All right, so what I want to do now is actually get to some training program suggestions. So I'm going to have 3 suggestions, and this just kind of gets us on the right path of what does the athlete need based off of the data we have, and then afterwards we can individualize it based on videos or other assessments or anything like that. So what we're going to be doing is taking, it's in the last 2 columns of that Google Sheets data that was in there. It's the P power score and the P velo score. So we're going to take those, we're going to display them first, then we'll do a couple of calculations with them, we'll create a ratio, then we're going to do some logic where we're going to say, if movement score is less than this, we want to give you a movement-based program to begin with. If strength or power from that ratio is less than 1 or over 1, we're going to prescribe one of those strength or power training programs. So from here, this kind of gives us that starting point for an initial training program for a player based off of the data that we've collected. So we're deriving even more value from the data from the assessments or exercises that we have. So first and foremost, let's get on into the UI code. So as we pop on over here, we're going to go down to the bottom of the side panel. I'm just going to display it there for now. Obviously, we move it around wherever we want to, but we're going to find that display percentiles here, and I've already moved the text gauge output above the display percentiles. So we're just going to plot this below. If you want to do that, plug and play with copying and pasting what you got here. You can copy what I've got. But yeah, so what we're going to do here is actually, I'll just copy it from over here because I've already got it. So this is going to be the output for displaying the program scores. We'll call them program scores for now. Might change it later, but right now all I want to do is display the P power score and the P velo score. After that, we'll go into calculations and things like that. So this is all you'll need to do. Let me get rid of that because that's unnecessary because we already have that down there. Cool, so that closes off our side panel down here. But this will be it. We'll give it an H4 for now too as well. And again, text output, P velo score, text output, P power score. And now we're going to head on down to our server code. So what I want to do, all right, so let's put it underneath this render percentiles table. It'll give us a few spaces there. And what we'll do here, I'm going to give this a big title so that I can go find it later. By using a kind of selection thing down here. So now we can see that pops in as training program suggestion. So that's in here. So we want to create a reactive expression to extract program scores based on the selected player and the event. Similar stuff to what we've done before. So what we're going to do is call this one program scores. And I'll paste this in here. So program scores, reactive, required is going to be input player name, input event ID. That is nothing new to us. And then what I want to do is filter the data to get scores for the selected player and event. So again, nothing new here. Paste that in. We'll call this scores. Let's get that into filter from new assessment. Get their full name. That's the input player name. And again, event ID, input $, event ID. So first and foremost, what we're going to want to do is make sure that these scores exist. So I'll throw this in here, check if the scores exist. If nrow scores equals 0, return list P power score equals NA. Same thing for velo score. So that's just if they don't have one, then we might have to do a little work in the Google Sheet to make sure that comes through. But that at least will let us know that it either doesn't exist or does. And then we want to return the scores. So in here, return scores, list P power score, and this is the actual header column title, or column header, I guess. So list P power score equals scores $, and give it those header titles, and then we're going to go ahead and close that off. Let's give ourselves another space. And now what we're going to get into is display the P power score in the sidebar. So this is going to be some if-else statements. What we'll do here, go ahead and paste it in. Output, again, we've done this before, output P power score, and we want to render text because that's displaying in our UI there. So if is NA, program scores, and again, because this is dynamic, we need to have those brackets like that in there. P power score, give yourself a squiggly, paste in quotations your P power score, That's how it'll display. Program scores. Again, we've got this here, then the $ p power score else. We'll just say that it's not available. So if we do have that NA, the text that we're going to receive is not available. Go ahead and close that off, give yourself a couple more spaces, and then we'll do the same thing for displaying the velo score, and that's all it's going to be for this first section. So same exact thing, render text, do your if else statement, should be good to go. Let's go ahead and pop up to our UI, run this sucker, and down below I have got for Steve Schartz, we have a P power score of 55.8 and a P velo score of 39.13. I have the Google Sheet open off to the side here, which actually I could pull over just so we can make sure that it all lines up. That looks pretty tiny. Let's get in there. If we go all the way across, just to confirm, this is Steve Schartz. It is his second assessment. So I've got him here. Let's scroll all the way to the end. And we can see P power score, P velo score, 55.8 and 39.13. So we've got that good to go. That makes sense. All checks out. And we can rock and roll with the next section. So let's get to some calculations. What we're going to do is take the average of the P power score and P velo score, and then we're also going to get a ratio, which will be U83. So the ratio is going to be the P power score divided by the P velo score, then that divided by 100, because we're going to look at if it's positive. I can't remember which one it is, either strength or power, and then if it's negative, it's the other one. So what we're going to do here, just for the display in the UI, throw your comma in here, and then we're going to display the average score and the ratio. So text output, average scores, text output, ratio scores. So remember, that's what we're going to call them. So let's get back down into our server code now. What we'll do here is right underneath return the scores. And before this, display the P power score in the sidebar, because we're going to keep that all down there. What we're going to do here is calculate and display the average of P score and P velo score, P power score and P velo score. So let's see here. We'll paste this in. So calculate and display the average of P power score and P velo score. This is going to be output, and we're going to call this average scores. That's what we called above. This is going to be another render text. I'll look into scores, go program scores, and then give it those brackets. Let's give it a couple more spaces, and we're going to do another if-else statement. So I'll throw in the if statement first. So if we have this exclamation mark is NA scores $ P power score, let's go and another is NA scores P velo score. Give yourself a squiggle, and then we're going to say P power score, and this is going to be as numeric scores $ P power score. Same thing for P velo score. Now let's get into the next piece, where we can actually close this one off. So we'll go in here, the average score. So we have that P power score, P velo score. The average is going to be P power score plus P velo score. I know. Oh yeah. So this is going to be the average score, P power score plus P velo score divided by 2, right? Paste average score. So that's the text that is going to display in our side panel. Round average score, we're going to round it to 2, and then else we'll just say that it's not available. So if we don't have a number, we're just saying that that is not available. So that is going to take care of our average score, pretty easy. Now we want to calculate and display the ratio of, let me just do this whole thing since it's really similar. So calculate and display, let's paste in, calculate and display the ratio of P power score to P velo score. So the same thing, output, we're going to call this one ratio scores. Again, we're going to render text, scores, program scores. So very similar to above, just make your change with ratio scores here. Then we're going to have our if and our if else statement. So if is NA, P power score, P velo score, same thing that we had above, and then calculate the ratio and convert to a percentage. So what we're doing here is if P velo score 0, and then we'll come in here, give yourself a squiggle, ratio, P power score divided by P velo score, and we're gonna take those, make sure you have those bracketed off, and then we're gonna divide by 100 to give us that ratio that we want. And then we're gonna paste ratio, and this is just telling us exactly what that calculation is. We'll just display that for now so we know what we're doing, because I messed it up earlier and I multiplied by 100, or not multiplied. Because I messed it up earlier and I multiplied by 100. So let's just make sure that we got that all right. Again, round ratio to 2. Else ratio cannot divide by 0. And then another else statement, ratio not available. So just giving ourselves a couple of checks in case we need to go back and fix something. And this should display for us now that we've got this in here. So go ahead, pause if you need to, and type this all out. But that's how we're going to put this calculation in. And then let's go to our user interface. We'll run our app. Let's scroll down to the bottom here. So now we can see we've got that average score, 47.47. Looks like that checks out. And then our ratio, we've got that 0.01. So that's looking good. Intuitively makes sense. And now what we'll do is actually get into the suggestion. And then we can actually take out the display for a lot of these and just have the suggestion be displayed. I will probably comment these things out just so I have them as a check later on in case anything goes awry. I can bring those back and see what those calculations are doing if there's anything that's off. So let's go into how we're going to write our kind of if statement for the training program suggestion. All right, so let's head back to the UI code. You can see I'm back here where it says display average score and ratio. What we want to do is display the training program suggestion. So throw a comma in after ratio scores, and then we'll throw in the text just so we know what we're doing here. And this is just going to be a text output, and we're going to call this training underscore program underscore suggestion. That's all we'll need to do for the UI. We'll head back down to our server code. So what we'll need to do here, because I'm actually calling in the movement score as well, we're going to need to create the movement score within the training program suggestion area. I know we've already displayed it elsewhere, but it needs to read in within this specific section. So we'll do a quick update here because, well, I guess I should go into why we're doing that. So the way that the logic is going to work is that we are going to say, if the movement score is less than 60, so that's that overall movement category score, if it's less than 60, I always want that kid to get a movement-based training program. Then I want it to say, and this is all in order, so then I wanted to say if the movement score is less than that average score that we created, so that P velo and P power, so if movement is less than average score, I still want that to give them a movement-based program, right? Because they could still be high, but if we're not getting the right, we don't have the right movement or range of motion capability to unlock power and strength. That's pretty much what we're talking about here. After that, I wanted to say if the ratio that we calculated is greater than 0, we want it to give them a strength program. And then we want to say after that, if the ratio is less than 0, that's going to be a power-based program. So we're kind of going, movement, strength, and then power. That's the idea for these 3 different training programs. So let's get into the things that we need to update in here. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and add the movement score in here. So that way we know, or at least we can call on it within this specific section. So we're going to go down to this return the scores section. So in here, list, blah, 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 blah. We're going to throw a comma in after here, and we're going to go movement underscore score, if I can spell, equals, same thing, scores $, and then give it your tick. And this one is going to be movement score that we're looking into. Then all that can stay the same. So that's all we'll need to do for the return the scores area. So this is really the 3 main things that we're looking at. Now, what we need to do is add this movement score stuff in another area. So, okay, so now that we've added that in, the next thing we need to do, we're also going to add movement score into this section, but we're going to display the training program selection, or determine the training program suggestion. So we're going to go down below all this other stuff we've done. So let's get under display the p-velo score in the sidebar. Let's go ahead and take that. And what I want to do is determine the training program suggestion. So similar to what we've done before, let's paste this in. Determine training program suggestion. It's going to be output training program suggestion, right? That's what we called in our UI. We're going to render text again. Same thing. Required input player name and input event ID. And then we don't have here scores, program scores. So this is the same as kind of what we've done before. And then we're going to have our big if statement here. So let me go ahead and do this. Okay, so if, same thing as before, is NA scores P power, we're going to go and is NA scores P velo score, and then another one for movement score, right? We can't forget the movement score to put that in here because we're going to need to be calling upon that. So now we have the P power score as numeric scores, so same stuff we've done before, okay? P velo score, same thing as numeric, and then we're throwing in our movement score just so we've got that in here because we need to reference that. Then we're going to do the calculation again because it's sitting within this determine training program suggestion code itself. So we do need to have this all talking within here. Let's go ahead and give this a couple more spaces. And now we're going to get actually into this like if and else if statement. So I'll paste this in. Let me scroll up. Scores, program scores. So we started here with suggestion. Suggestion. We're just going to default to no suggestion, right? If we don't have that information, we just don't want it to display, right? Then this is our if statement. So if the movement score is less than 60, the suggestion is going to be movement. Else if movement score is less than average score, give it your squiggle again, suggestion is going to be movement. Do that other squiggle so that kind of closes it, right? Else if ratio is greater than 0, right? We want that to be strength. And then else if the ratio is less than 0, we want that to be power. And then we close that off and we should be good to go from there. What do I have in here? Paste training program suggestion. Sweet, training program. Okay, so this is how we're pasting it within the UI itself. So paste training program suggestion, and then we're calling on that suggestion that we created up there. And then if it's not available, right, we just want that to display not available. So let's head back to the user interface. Let's hit all this and see if the magic happens. Okay, scroll down. Perfect, we've got movement here. Now I don't have it displaying here because we didn't write that in, but I can always go up here and check. Movement score was a 49. So we know that if it's less than 60, we want that to give them the movement score. So that checks out. Now let's try and pick somebody who may have something different. I think Simone Biles does. Nope. Let's go up. Giannis? No. John Cena? No. Maybe Barry Bonds. 55. We're close. All right, Jared Saltalamacchia. He's got a 60, so this is going to be the test to see if this actually works. If I scroll down, you can see that it's provided him the strength. And based off of our logic, we're saying that if the ratio, so our ratio here, is greater than 0, we want it to display strength. So that checks out. So we've got that going pretty good. And you can just go through and check these just to make sure it's working. You can pick a few. And it looks like I actually don't have a lot of these players with a score above 60 there. So play around with it if you want to manipulate the data yourself and maybe throw in a movement score that's higher just to check out that this training program suggestion does work. But as we wrote it, that logic should work. I've tested it a few times. So let's make this look a little better. We're going to comment out these pieces except for the training program suggestion. So that way those don't show up. I'll change this from program scores to training program suggestion, and maybe I'll alter the text here and then bold it a little bit maybe. But that gives us that kind of first step of, hey, based off of the data, this is what we're seeing from the athlete, and we want to get it to the point that from there, once we're getting them into a movement or a strength program or a power program, then we can individualize it from there by any videos they send in or any other stuff that we want to do with them. So that's kind of the last piece to the value of this. Other than that, I'm just gonna go through and make this thing maybe look a little bit cleaner. Might still mess around with this range of motion stuff because I'm not totally sold on what it looks like. But from a value standpoint, we've derived value from creating the training program suggestion. We're actually looking if things are good or bad within this range of motion. That's the value that we wanted to get from there. And then obviously for the player and for the coaches too, they get to see where they sit between the 25th and 75th percentile and be able to hit your drop downs and just look at all those different things. And then over time, you get into event 3, 4, 5, 6, you can see if that athlete is progressing longitudinally, making those incremental gains. And we want to get 1 inch, 1% better every single day. So pretty cool that we've been able to swing this all together and provide some value just with this little shiny app. We definitely got a lot of code in there, but I learned a lot through this process. I hope you did too, and now we can just make this thing look pretty. So real quickly, let's just get rid of all our calculations here just so that way they're not in our way. Well, first, let's go ahead and change the title here. So instead of program scores, I'm going to call it training program suggestion. And then let's go ahead and change output for displaying training program suggestion. And I don't want to display this or this or this or this. That way, if I ever do want to display it again, I can just take out the little commenting and I can look at those calculations just to see that they're coming through all right. So that's all we need to do for the UI. Let's head on down to our training program suggestion in our server code. And let's go ahead and all I want to do is update. Let's head down to the bottom here. Training program suggestion. I just want this to say suggestion. That S in there. Same thing for this one. I just want it to say suggestion, just so it's not too repetitive. And let's go ahead and run this. Whoops. And let's go ahead and run it. All right. And training program suggestion is movement. Nice. So that's pretty easy there. We may want to move it up a little bit. Maybe we'll throw it in between the player details and overall score just to make it look kind of nice there. So let's go ahead and head back to the user interface. We'll scroll down. Let's take this out. Get rid of that. Display percentile is the gauge, age group. Yeah, let's go ahead, let's throw it in here. All right, and here, and let's go ahead, put the comma after that. And let's run it again. Nice. Training program suggestion is movement. Then you can see the player details and the rest of our information. So if you wanted to be done here, you could. The other things I'll do, you might see on mine if you have the link to it. I might try a different visualization for this, but as far as deriving value from this goes, we've pretty much done that. So besides maybe throwing in some visuals on the side here so you can insert PNGs or JPEGs just to give a visualization for what this is. Like, a parent is looking at this and he's like, what is lower body power? What is the 10-5 test? You can throw in an image of somebody jumping. Same thing for the CMJ, somebody jumping there. Upper body power, just the med ball stuff. So throwing images in. So you can do that if you want to, just to make it look a little bit cleaner and grow your code even longer. But that really concludes what we'll be doing here. Maybe I'll throw a couple others where I do some other stuff to pretty this thing up, but that'll be it. Thanks for coming along with this journey. It's been pretty fun to dive back into R and do this. Hopefully I'll put out a couple more projects as well and see what we can get into. So thanks for following along. Really appreciated it. And hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to stay updated on the next video, and I'll see you in the next one.